Hi, I'm Sunny, and today's question for today's pick a card reading is about how your kids make fun of you as a parent. So, more or less, what they like to make fun of you, or like what they laugh about you about, like what you do and stuff. So, I have three piles you guys can choose from left to right. I have pile one, two, and three. So, if you feel like you're like, well, I don't have any kids, then you can put this in like your pets, right? In a pet format, like what do your pets make fun of you for, or what do you enjoy particularly about your parents, like what you like to make fun of them for in that format, whichever you prefer. But more or less the context of this question is going to be surrounding that, like you as a parent. So I will start with pile number one. Let me move these up. So pile number one, you guys have the Hermit upright, followed by the Sun card upright. So with you guys, oops, there. So with you guys, I particularly feel that your kids like to make fun of you because, one, you could, I don't want to say you're blind, but they can make fun of you for the fact that you're like possibly the person who's like looking, you have like a little night light, or you have your phone light and you're like walking at night. Maybe you're trying to conserve energy or something. You're like, this house is not going to get paid. The house bills are not going to get paid if we keep using so much energy. So like they can make fun of you for that. And then you're like trying to conserve energy and you're just like walking at night with like a little lamp or like your phone light or a candle. Like it feels like you try to diminish as much amount of energy as possible so that you don't overpay stuff. I do feel that make fun of me for your age. Possibly they're like, you're such an old person. Like you might not be necessarily old, like old, or even if you are older than, I mean, obviously you're older than them, but in the sense where if you feel like there's a 20 plus age difference, it's not necessarily that you look old, but you might appear youthful, but your temperament is older. It's like an old man. Or even if you are a young parent, you are very much someone that likes to act like a very, very old person. Like an old soul, sure, but they make fun of you for that. Like, I don't want to say, I hate using these terms like boomer and stuff, but they can make fun of you like that. We're like, okay, boomer. Or they can make fun of you as a parent where they're like, you're such an old lady, you're such an old man. Like, who wears that? Who does that like at night? Like, it just feels like they make fun of you for your nightly routines, for possibly your wardrobe. Maybe you like to wear old lady gowns. Or like maybe you're like, if you're a man, you're like walking in your underpants. Like, they're like, Mom, Dad, like, please, like, stop, put on some clothes. Like, it feels like it could be like that. It just feels like you do have clothes, but they're not saying that they have to be like very fitted clothing, but they make fun of you for the fact that you're not appearing to them as they see you because of your taste. They're like, oh, that taste is so outdated. Like, who wears that? Or you could be wearing very old clothes and they make fun of you for that because, like, you do have the money for it, but you're like, it's not something you deem necessary. You're like, I'm not going to be spending this much money on pajamas or something because it's something that I'm going to sleep in. No one's going to see me. No one else. Like, it feels like that. So they make fun of you for that. You could also be, if you're someone that's on the older side, they can be possibly making fun of you for your mobility aids, in the sense where it's not that they might be making fun of you because your disabilities. It's how you use them that can they make fun of you for that. Like, example, you use eye glasses, right? But they're heavily prescription. Like, those lenses are thick, so they can make fun of you for the fact that you have to wear the thickest lenses to be reading or to be using at night because you can't see at night or something like that. They make fun of you for that. They do think you're a bit of a bookworm in that sense, where like you're a hermit, so maybe you like to just like hide away in your home or like not go away. Like, you're like, I don't want to say you're like the people who come out in Scooby-Doo. Like, I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you meddling kids or something like that. But it does feel like you're the grumpy person, or maybe if you're not necessarily grumpy, they see you that way, where it's like, everything bothers them. They're so picky. There's like, if I put my hands on the table like this, they get after me, or like if I don't clean their way, they get after me, or if I'm not reading properly, or I'm just like watching like stuff on YouTube, or like watching my shows, or like I could be doing something else with my time. It feels like that, where you could possibly be the person who checks up on them frequently, but they get annoyed that you nag, but you don't nag necessarily because you want to. It's more so you could be doing something more productive with your time, like reading or catching up on your school stuff or stuff like that, where it's like you can involve yourself with your mind in that sense, and that's where they're like or maybe they nag at you nag at them because you want them to follow certain belief systems like you, and they're like, nah. I'm not interested in this. It's like whatever. So it could be like that. Even with the sun, it feels like you can have one extreme and then you're like completely different the next like morning, where it's like I'm up and ready. You could be like a ray of sunshine, like you're a morning person possibly, but then at night you might want to sleep. You know what? That's it. I think a lot of you guys might enjoy like the early bird gets the worm kind of thing, where it's like you want to sleep early and they make fun of you for that. It's like that's such an old person routine. But then you're the first person to get up at 4, 5, 6 in the morning, and you're like, I'm ready, I'm showered, I'm like watching TV, I'm catching up on news, I'm cooking for everybody, and like it could be like that, and they're like barely going to sleep. Or they're like, oh, that's so annoying, like why are you doing that? It could be like that, where it's like they make fun of you because it's like they see the very big contrast in your personality, where it's like day and night. And that's something they see funny. Or that you could also be the kind of person that you play with the grandkids a lot, and then you're completely different with them. It's like you spoil the grandkids, you're a lot of fun, you're creative, you're outgoing, you're doing stuff outside with them, and then with them it's like night and day, where it's like, no. Like you can do your own stuff. Like why you don't need to be spoiled. Like you're a grown adult. It feels like that, where the reason why they make fun of you as a parent, they really see this contrast of like night and day. It's like 1 minute you're a kid, you're acting like a kid, you're immature, you're playing pranks, and then the next minute you're like an old person, like grumpy kind of thing. So it's like youthful and old at the same time, one at a time, one coexisting personalities in you. That's what they make fun of you about. So that's interesting to mention. Point number 1. They do see you as someone that possibly, if I may say, in some people, not everybody, I do think that some people might fall into the category where they might see you as someone who, how can I say, someone who likes to not saying you like the drama, but you like to maybe stir the pot or stuff like that, and then you're going back to like retrieve yourself in like your room and stuff like that, where it's like, oh, I just wanted to come out to do this, but deep down I didn't really care. It's like you just wanted to start the drama, like a bit of drama, but not necessarily continue it and stuff like that. You're like, I don't really care about finishing it, and then you're like, okay, I'm tired, gotta go to bed. So that's what I have for you. And this only applies to some. Do take what resonates, pile number 1. Next, pile number 2, you guys have the 4 of Swords upright. And then your next card is the 5 of Wands upright. So let me take a sip of water before I continue. Okay, so pile number 2. What do your kids like to make fun of you about? They see you as 2 modes. I think you might have been interested in some things about pile number 1. For this pile, I think they make fun of you for the fact that you sleep a lot, or you're always lazy, or you're tired. Like every time they want to talk to you, you're tired. It can wait. Another time. I'm going to sleep. Like you're always exhausted. Maybe you do work a lot. Maybe. There is fire wand energy here, but I do see your kids seeing you as someone who's like always fatigued, always tired, always using that excuse, maybe because of work, maybe because you have a lot of stress, maybe because you have low energy, or you just frequently, chronically, sick and stuff like that, and they just see it like, oh, it's one of those things again. They do see you as that, but the reason why I get annoyed, not at you, but like this annoyance and this vibe for this pile is that the fact that there's the 5 of Wands upright. I feel like maybe because your kids tire you, that you're like, oh, I'm done, I'm fatigued. So they could possibly drain you, pile number 2. I do see that as a possibility for you, where you're like, oh, I just feel like it's draining. I suddenly just channeled you very deeply. I'm like, oh no, I'm drained. So I do think that your kiddos drain you because you're constantly bickering, or they're always like wanting to put you in the middle, where like taking sides, and you're like, I'm not gonna take sides. I think everybody's wrong equally. Like either you're calm, or there's no in between with them. I feel like your kids kind of stress you out in that sense, because they're always arguing about things, whether it's things that they share or they're supposed to be sharing, but they don't. They're really bad, possibly because it's like me, 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 me. It's a very me mentality, and then they're like expecting you to be the mediator to always resolve things, and you're like, I am too old for this. Like, it just feels like you're fatigued and tired, whatever age it may be, whether you're like a young parent or you're an older parent or like in the middle. It does feel like you have quite a handful of kids, and then to make it worse, they all kind of want the same things or fight over for the same dumb things. It's just they fiercely fight for things that they want for themselves in the moment. They don't want it later, they want it now. So it feels like they do constantly argue. There's always arguing at your home, and you feel so drained and tired. You're like, I come home from work and I have to come home to this. Or if I'm already home and I'm a stay-at-home parent, I'm working around the clock, and I'm like fixing up the house, I'm cooking, I'm cleaning, and then they come back and they're making a mess, and they're just bickering and arguing. Like, you'd think that because they went to school, or they went out to the gym, or they went out to do extracurricular activities or hang out with their friends, they would like chill out, or like be more mellow in the house, or just be more like they wanted to just maybe just be in their home like space of like in their rooms. But that's not the case. It's like they have a ton of energy, and they have strong tempers, and that just tires you out. I think you're not someone that appreciates that much confrontation, because you have to deal with, I feel like you deal with a lot of stress with people and stuff. So talking and bickering, it's like you're over it. You're like not you're not into that. So the things they make fun of you is for the fact that you're like, oh, like mom or dad is always like this. Like they just like let them, they'll figure it out. It's like very passive. They're very aggressive, I would say, like, but not in like a super bad way, but like they're more confrontational, and you're like, oh, I'm not that confrontational. I really don't care. I'm way too old for this stuff. I have to be up at like X amount of time, where I have to like take a quick nap, power nap, and then go back to work, or stuff like that. Or like it just feels like you're like, I'm just wanting to rest. I want my peace. I close myself in my room and I zone out. I would rather distract myself, be at rest, watching my favorite show, maybe snacking, and then just like calling it a day, than having to deal with everybody else in the house. Like I just feel like maybe it's possibly teenagers you deal with, and that's why they're exhausting. But it does feel like the things they make fun of you it's for the fact that there could be a ruckus and a commotion in the house, and you're like, the house could be burning down. You're like, they'll handle it. They'll be fine. Like, it feels like that, where you're like, you're giving the power of decision to them. Like, if they're gonna be arguing and doing all these things, very action-oriented people, they're just might as well solve it themselves. Like, they'll figure it out. That's the part of growing up, the process of allowing the independence part kicking in. So it does feel like they make fun of you for that, where you're like, oh, mom and dad is just kind of like, in their own room, sleeping all the time. Like, I also think that you possibly are a heavy sleeper. So when you sleep to knock out. Possibly that you snore, or that you they could pick at you, like open your eyelids, and you'd still be asleep. Like, that's how fatigued and tired you are most of the time. So that's what I have for you. Pile number 2, that's things they make fun of you for. Possibly your sleeping habits. So pile number 3, you guys have the 2 of Swords upright and the 2 of Pentacles upright. So interesting energy for you guys, because this is 2-2. That could be significant for you, or the fact that you have multiples, like twins, or just kids of the same age, fraternal kids, or you can also be co-parenting. It feels like 2 is a significant, important number because of kids or parents, or the fact that there's 2 families. Like, maybe you have to separate yourselves because you're co-parenting, And it's like one dynamic works this way and then one dynamic works this way in your household, where it's like you're trying to adjust as best as you can, but it can be tricky because kids are tough and they can be a handful because they want very different things. But let me take a sip of water before I continue. I do think that your kids like to make fun of you because they like to play games with you. Like, there's this mental manipulation going on. And I don't know if you allow it because you love them, because like you are aware and you are knowledgeable of the fact that it's occurring and happening, but because you love them, it's like, oh, it's sweet. It's sweet little manipulations of like, can I get this, mom or dad? Like, I'll behave, or like stuff like that. You're like, like, I don't know. And then they kind of keep pushing and stuff like that. So they know how to sweet talk you. I feel like they know how to sweet talk you, but they also know how to get on your nerves. So I feel like they know how to get their way, but it's tricky. It's like they have to work their way up that, like, whether it's they are doing something, like getting good grades, for example, and then they get their prize. Or it feels like thing one and thing two here. It's like it's not that there's so much commotion, but there's a lot of balancing between like one and the other. So you're maybe balancing between one parent and the other parent, because maybe you can be like, one says yes and the other parent says no. Or you guys can be on the same page, but your kids kind of try to manipulate you in the sense where mom said I can do this. Well, I don't think you can do that. You're not supposed to be doing that. And then they go back to mom and like, well, dad said I could do it, or I'm not supposed to do it. Like, in those scenarios where like, go ask your mom, go ask your dad, which can be kind of annoying in decision making with these cards. So it could be like that, where they make fun of you because you guys are like, terrible communication, possibly miscommunication, or just assumed communication between both parents or between parental figure and child. So it could be like that. So I think that you could also be someone that tries to balance everything, like having a set, like, how can I say? A set routine can be difficult for you. You're trying to balance everything, but it's difficult because you can be the person who's like wearing one shoe and then another shoe, and then you're like running around the house trying to make things, on time and getting everybody ready and then going back to work. And because you're not completely organized, you tend to be spacey. So they can make fun of you because you're a little bit spacey, or not like you could be you could have tendencies to be like naming your kid, right? Like, or asking about, like, if you need a task done, like, oh, Jane Doe, can you come downstairs? But you start saying Jane, John, Jim, Joe, Don, everybody. Like, you have maybe that tendency to like say you're trying to call one person, but you call like a gazillion other names, which is all the siblings, right? So it could be like that, and everybody's like, well, who did you want to talk to? Like, it can be like that, where they make fun of you because you want to talk. There's communication's important, but it's funny because it can backfire on you, where you're like, oh, I just want this one. Like, why are you guys here? Like, I wasn't talking to you, but you just said my name. And then like there can be annoying bickering. It can be like that. I also think they want to finesse you sometimes with things, materialistic things. Like, it just feels like they want to ask for things, but you're like weighing the pros and the cons of whether if you're over spoiling them or you're under spoiling them. And then if you have to get one, you have to get the other something of equal value, because they don't always want the same thing. And then you have to wait. Like, you always have to weigh decisions out, and then they make fun of you for that. It's like, why are you thinking so hard? Like, they think it's funny that you're thinking hard because you want to be balanced and you want to not have favoritism, but they think that's funny. And that's why they like to mess with your head. I do think it's like, in that sense, like, they think you overthink stuff and you give yourself a lot of anxiety and stress when you can simplify things according to them. Doesn't mean it's easy. Like, it doesn't mean it's always black and white, right? Decision making is never like that, but they never see the gray area. They never see many things, but they think it's so simple to make decisions in your position. So overall, I think they might make fun of you for that, or they also might make fun of you for the fact that you're always kind of, I don't want to say that you're necessarily tipsy, but it's like, what's that word? Not naive, accident prone too. You could be the person who hits their toe or their pinky toe pretty often, and you're like, ah. Or it could be like that. Or I also feel that you're the kind of person who trips, just accident prone. You don't have accident prone tendencies, and you're always like blaming everybody when it should be you, but everybody makes fun of you for that because it's like, oh, parent always does this, like, yeah, and then they blame everybody else except themselves. So it can be like that, a tendency to do that. They also like to make fun of you for the fact that you could be forgetful. I do think you're forgetful from time to time, and they remind you of stuff, and they like to feel like they know it all. In that sense, like, I told you so, or you should have listened to me. They like to, not that they like to switch the role, but I do feel that they like to make fun of you for that. Like, they like to be not snobby, but snooty, right? I think snooty is a proper term. But yeah, they very much make fun of you for that. Trying to balance your life. There's something important about too. So having like a home job career, balancing that out, being mom and then being dad too, or just co-parenting, or having two kids that are very like black and white. Yeah, it just feels like night and day. A lot of these themes, I don't know why I feel like it's like night and day. Night and day are important. It's like, maybe it's two parents being different, not being always on the same page, but yeah, one being more serious and then the other one being more like playful. It could be like that too. Do take what resonates, but definitely they make fun of you for a lot of these reasons. They know where to pick. I'll say that. I think your kids are smart enough to know where to pick and when to stop, to get their way. But I do think you kind of let them because you love them. But you show your love in like teasing forms, back and forth, taunting each other. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. That's what I have for today. So please like, subscribe, comment, and share. It helps me out with my algorithm and growing my channel. And comment which pile you resonated more with the most with. And thank you so much, and I'll see you soon. So bye everybody.